Hey guys, Nick here. So today we're going to go through something that I think is very important to understand when you're a new analyst, you're fresh out of school and you're about to get started right in your first job, or even if it's your first time picking up Excel and you're going to use it to help out with your work, right? So basically this piece of advice is understanding how your data is structured. And the reason I think it's important to understand how your data is structured is because when you go and try to do manipulations on your data, if you understand the structure, you're already a step ahead of getting to where you want to be, right? So data can be structured really in two ways. The first way is what's referred to as tabular data, where basically the data, each data point, right? Each unique data point is like a column, right? So this right here that we're looking at is tabular data, right? There's a column for every unique, call it variable in your data set. For example, there's an order date in this table, a customer number, a category, a sales column, a quantity column, a city column, and a state column, right? So these are all unique variables. And then each record for those variables is delineated in a row, right? So each row is a unique record, right? So for example, this first row right here is specific to customer GA7581, orders from 1/2 of this year for category miscellaneous with the attached sales dollars, units sold, and then the city and state of the customer, right? And if we filter for that customer, right, while they have multiple rows here, multiple records, each one is unique, right? Each one is unique in its makeup. So like if you were to look only where this customer ordered on this date specifically to this category, you wouldn't find another record that describes the same data, right? So like if, for example, if I put these three pieces together, right, just to show you. So this is, what we're going to do is, what just happened there? Right, so, sorry, let me make this column wider. Copy this down. Right, so if we take these values, paste it as values, and then if we filter for unique records, Alt-AQ is the shortcut. Right, if you filter for unique, what you see here is this list filtered for unique values only shows you that each value here is unique, right? So tabular data has each unique instance broken out by the row, right? So that's one way data is organized, and this tabular is most commonly seen, or is most common in databases or data tables, right? So when you're pulling from, like, say the data warehouse of wherever you're working at, the data tables they have are most likely organized like this, right? It's a unique column, right, for each variable, and then the rows make up the records, right? And each row is for a unique record, just like we've kind of proved earlier. So this, in my opinion, is the best way to work with data, because it's output from data tables and from when you're when you're querying for data, this is how it's typically output, right, in a workplace setting. But then there's also another way that data can be structured, and I believe that way is referred to as like multidimensional. So multidimensional data, what it does is it takes your tabular data and it does some type of manipulation or aggregation to it, right? It'll either take this data and sum it up based on, call it one of these variables, right? It'll sum it up based on the customer number, or it'll aggregate your data based on your category, or even by like if sales are over a certain threshold or your units are over a certain threshold. The point being, multidimensional takes this tabular data and aggregates it or manipulates it to an output similar to this right here, right? So if you look at this data table, which I started but I haven't finished, right? I have my sum formulas here. So you can see this points to the sum ifs is pointing to my data tab, which is where the tabular data is, right? So multidimensional, what's different here and what you can see off the bat is the breadth of the columns, right? Here we have sales and units, sales and units, sales, units, so on and so forth. So these two variables in this data table repeat. They repeat 12 different times. So now it's no longer showing unique, right? Unique variables as the columns, because these columns are repeating for the same two variables. The reason being that if you look a row above, this sales and units is particular to this customer number, TX-1005, and it's also particular to a certain category, right? It could be particular to even a specific customer type, or even to a transaction type, whatever you want. But the point being is that these columns are no longer unique, right? They're specific. They're copies related to another dimension or another variable from your tabular data, right? Because we can see here in the tabular, sales and units are unique here, and you also have customer and category unique here. Whereas in your multidimensional, you're repeating those columns where they're no longer unique. That's because you're manipulating, in most cases aggregating. You want to see an aggregation of the same variables, but just broken out for different instances, you could say, of another variable, right? So here we want, for all of these columns, we want sales and units summed up by week, right? Specific in these two columns, specific to customer TX-1005 in the garage category, whereas in these two sales and units columns, we want the sales and units summed up by week, but specific to customer RI-6139 and specific to the category kitchen and bath, right? So multidimensional is, think about it, right? Like how we logically just went from pulling from the data source, right? Data table or whatever. Multidimensional is where we've taken that tabular data that came from our data source or whatever data table, and then we're aggregating it, right? We're aggregating a few columns based on different conditions within the other columns in that tabular data set, right? Does that make sense? So if you can understand these two data structures, multidimensional and tabular, if you can understand them, first off, what are you working with? And then second off, what do you want to see? That alone is going to get you a step ahead in picking up these Excel formulas, right? And picking up Excel as a tool to help you go from one one structure to another, right? Because if you can understand that you have tabular data that you're pulling, and then you want to manipulate it, you can understand that multidimensional is a way to format tabular data, but in more concise groups to kind of show a level of detail, then you're already a step ahead of the game. And when you're writing out these formulas, like for example, here we have this sum ifs, and you'll see the sum ifs in another one of the videos we go through. If you understand how your data is structured, putting these formulas together to manipulate your data is that much easier. So I know today's lesson is a bit more complex to follow. At least that's how it feels for me originally, at least when I figured this out. But if you can get this, you're a step ahead of the game, and you're moving a level up in your understanding and your possible ability of working in Excel. But anyways, guys, I definitely know this might not have been fully clear, but just leave me your feedback in the comments, and wherever you might have kind of like lost where I was going, just let me know and I'll try my best to clarify. And even if you want maybe a video showing a bit more detail from where you got stuck, I can go through that as well. Just let me know in the comments, guys, and give me some feedback. Let me know where you're at, and like always, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you guys on the next one.